Hi, and welcome back to Mugnaini's Cooking School. Today we're going to be making traditional paella out of your wood-fired oven. Now, this is a really popular dish, and it's really great for large-scale entertaining. It's all made in this one pot, and then it can be served immediately on the table. We're going to start with a paella pan. We sell these here at our store. You can see them online. We have a variety of different sizes. We use this for more than paella too. We use it for a variety of braising dishes and also roasting. First things first, we're going to be using some olive oil. And then this is just good quality dried Spanish chorizo. So that's going to go right into the pan. And I have a preheated oven here. We're just going to set this right in to cook and start to brown. This is a really popular dish that we get requests for from clients a lot, and we've been making it at our cooking school here for decades. It's really great for large-scale entertaining. You can feed a crowd with it, and it's all made in one pot. So it's really easy to serve straight from the oven right onto the table, and it's a total crowd pleaser. So once our chorizo has rendered enough fat and has lightly browned, we're going to move on to the next step, which is to add in some aromatics. And we have some onions and carrots here. You can really add other things like chilies. You can make this dish vegetarian. Instead of seafood, which we'll be doing today, you can make it a chicken one if you'd like. So keep in mind that there's lots of different ways to modify this recipe. So we'll pull out our chorizo and add in onion and carrots. Give it a nice stir, and then we'll put it back into the oven. And while this is cooking, I want to make note that we started with a fully preheated oven at a pizza temperature. The reason that we did that is because we want to start at a high temperature, because the mass of cooler ingredients that we start adding into the pan as we layer all these flavors together will eventually bring the temperature of the oven to a roasting temp of about 550, which is where you want it to remain for the remainder of cooking. As the oven temperature comes down, make sure that you maintain a flame in there. You never want to walk away from the oven. Always make sure you're adding wood, and then keep it at 550, which is where it'll be once we eventually add the rice. Now, once your vegetables are fully softened, we're going to be deglazing with a little bit of just dry white wine. And we want to get that into the oven on its own until it reduces by about half. It should take a couple minutes. So now our wine has deglazed the pan and reduced by half. I'm now ready to add in another layer of flavors. So the first thing I have here is a mixture of softened butter, some tomato paste, and parsley. And then I have a stock that we'll be adding as well, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. So you're going to pull your paella forward. Drop in your butter mixture. And then we're going to add in our stock. So carefully place that back into the oven, and we're going to let that start cooking until it comes to a simmer. Now, I want to talk about the stock really quick. We made our stock yesterday. It's a seafood or shrimp stock that we made by simmering chicken stock and shrimp shells, which we'll also be using for the paella later on. Some saffron, some chili flakes, and garlic. That just simmered for a little bit, and then we had it on hold ready for today. So you can make that in advance, and also the compound butter, the tomato paste, the softened butter, and the parsley can also be made in advance. Our stock is now simmering in the paella pan, and now we're ready to add in our rice. So I've got my rice ready here. This is a paella rice or a bomba rice, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but I want to show you how we're going to be adding this rice into the pot. Have it ready on the side and pull your paella pan forward carefully because there's liquid in it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle in the rice in an even layer. You can do this with a spoon, or you can do it just by pouring it in as evenly as you can. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to take a spoon and I'm just going to press all the rice into an even layer. The reason I'm doing this instead of stirring it, and I'm just pressing it to submerge all the rice into the liquid, the reason I'm doing that is because I want that bottom layer to get a head start of cooking and getting that really nice crispy crust. So now I'm going to cover it tightly with foil. Make sure you have protective gear. And this is going to go back into the oven for 15 minutes. Now, during that 15 minutes, make sure that you're adding wood to maintain your flame in the oven, but also that you are turning the pan one time halfway through that 15 minutes, just so each side of the pan gets to cook next to the fire. Since we have a range of temperatures across the floor in the oven, the side closest to the fire is going to heat up a little quicker than the side furthest. So that's why we rotate the pan. And then while that's in there, I want to talk real quickly about the type of rice we're using. As I mentioned, we're using bomba rice, or it's commonly referred to as paella rice. This is the most absorbent rice. It's important that you use this instead of just regular white rice or long grain rice because this is going to absorb all the flavors that we're layering into this dish. So our paella has been cooking for about 15 minutes now, and now it's time to start adding in our layers of seafood. So I want to show you what this looks like after 15 minutes. You'll see a lot of the liquid and the stock has already started absorbing quite a bit. Be careful taking that foil off because it's going to be a little steamy. So you can see here that rice is starting to set up and absorb a lot of that stock already, which is exactly what you want to see. So now we're going to add in some clams. And when you add the clams, make sure you're adding them hinge side down, meaning they're going to open up from the top, and all that liquid that's inside the clam will release into the rice and add another layer of flavoring in there. So always make sure that they are hinge side down and lightly press them in so they stay up. You'll also notice that I'm not stirring this rice. I'm keeping it exactly how it was when I took the foil off. Again, that's going to ensure that the bottom cooks up really nice and crispy. And feel free to do this at the shelf of the oven. You don't have to bring it out of the oven if you have enough space there, just so you can get it right back in. All right, so clams are in. I'm going to cover this back up. Be careful touching that pan if it's hot. And now this is going to go back into the oven for 10 more minutes. And I'm also going to add a log. Okay, so it's been about 10 minutes. My clams should be all the way cooked through and opened up. We're just going to pull out our pan and check on it before adding our other ingredients. So again, carefully opening that up. You see our clams have opened up nicely, and now we're ready for our shrimp, our tomatoes, our peas, and then our final rosemary. So the first thing that we're going to do is add in our shrimp. And there are people who get pretty decorative about this. You can kind of be rustic about it or place them around really pretty too if you'd like. All right, so the shrimp is in. Now we're going to add some Roma tomatoes and just spread that around evenly over the top. Next thing that goes in is just going to be some peas. And then finally, some fresh rosemary. Now we're going to cover this back up, cover it tightly, and put it back into the oven for 40 minutes. Now, 40 minutes might sound like a really long time, but during that time, the shrimp and the liquid from the vegetables will seep into the rice. So it's important that we give it enough time for that liquid to finish cooking, absorb into the rice, and evaporate. So back into the oven. And then during that 40 minutes, just make sure you don't check on it. Just let it be. Rotate the pan every 15 minutes or so it gets even exposure to the fire. And then one really helpful trick is to prop your door up so that you still have air coming into the oven, but the airflow is a little restricted. That'll prevent the wood from burning up so quickly, so it'll reserve wood, and it'll also just keep cool air from blowing into the oven and maybe making the mouth of the oven fluctuate a bit. So every 15 minutes, make sure you're rotating it, make sure you're adding wood so you maintain a flame, and just keep your door propped up. All right, so it's been about 40 minutes, and now is the moment we've all been waiting for. All of our work is now paid off, and we've got a beautiful paella that we can now serve to our friends and our family. We're just going to pull this out. And one of the nice things about this too is if you're not necessarily ready to serve, you can just leave it up in the mouth of the oven for about half an hour while you're waiting for people to maybe gather to the table or still waiting for people to come over. So it can hold a little bit. But otherwise, if you're ready to serve, we just uncover. And you can see our shrimp's nice and cooked, clams are open. We should have a beautiful crust underneath here, which is my favorite part. So when you're ready to serve, you want to try and pull from the bottom, give it a nice little stir. You can see we've got lots of just browned, crispy pieces of rice here, which is just the hallmark of a really good paella. All right. And a really good optional topping for this, we like to use our Calabrian chilies. We sell these online, so check out our website. These are really good on pizza, but the oil is also really good on top of paella. So it's a really good garnish. It adds a nice little spice to it, and it just plates up really nice. And now you're ready. So serve to your friends and family. It also makes great leftovers. You can fry it up in a pan, and you're ready to go. Enjoy.